Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there. It's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 117 of Cognitive. And I'm recording this on Valentine's Day, 2023 at 7:48 p.m. Isn't that lovely? And in case you were wondering, yes, I had a simply lovely Valentine's Day, and I've had a pretty good Valentine's week, minor things notwithstanding. Your comments are welcomed, and you can comment at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com or on our group on Ravelry. I like them no matter where they end up, and they often end up in the warm thanks department. For example, let's look at Holly Daisy 2000. Welcome aboard, and thank you for loving on my Don't Know Yet blanket. And of course, our buddy Tiny Shiny Things is back, and she sends me a gentle admonition about what the word bricking means among the British contingent. Ooh, apparently it's a bit vulgar. I'm not sure what she's indicating it means, but I can take a few good guesses. At any rate, no. In America, no. It doesn't have any vulgar meaning I've ever heard. It really is something people say when a cat is tucking all its feet under itself and wrapping its tail around tight and fluffing out its fur. That's bricking for a cat. But okay. In the meantime, thank you though, TST. I do appreciate that because I kind of love linguistic stuff anyway. COVID, you all know the drill. Get your electronic COVID card, in fact, if you're in California. Get your kids their shots. And I've got a few links there, one for the electronic COVID card for Californians and one for the free COVID tests that are apparently still out there. I know, can you believe I'm moving this fast? I'm really moving this fast. Let's go to what's on my hooks and needles, because it's been quite a week. Let me tell you, I'm pretty happy because I finally declared the wrapped in tiny chains crocheted cardigan finished. Now, why, you might ask? The pockets are not on it. I could have done more edging crochet. Yes, all of that is true, but you know what? I haven't taken the thing off for over a week now. Okay, it's true. I do when I go to bed. This is the most usable thing I may ever have created for myself. I simply love it. I'm wearing it right now. It's exactly the thing I always wanted from a sweater, because I can just plop it on over my other sweaters. It's incredibly fluffy and soft. It's got beautiful hand, and again, that is that weird cashmere acrylic blend. I don't have to worry about the moths eating it in my closet, so I can just kind of leave it around the house without worrying about a moth hit on it. Do we have moths? Not that I know of right now, but they have a way of sneaking up on you in the spring. And this crocheted cardigan is so fluffy and so soft, and it went together so easily. I mean, I thought there was this big thing about seaming, and, you know, it probably took me maybe, I don't know, an evening to seam it. And I was fussing around with it a lot, so I'd be hard-pressed to tell you how many minutes it took me, but not a long time. One of the things that shocked me is these are all pretty short seams, and I did not do any kind of fancy stitchery. I wasn't really impressed with my mattress stitching, and you know what? The seams look great. Just make sure you do them all on the same side so that when you turn it the other way around, they're all nicely hidden, and they are. I'm looking at my arms and my shoulders. I can't even see the seams. And as I think I've said before, the arms, the sleeves are way too long on the size large that I made. They are pretty basically twice the length you need them to be. So don't do that. But if you're going to do that, like I did for my first time around, I said, well, I must be wrong. They can't be as long as they seem. Har, har, har. And so when I was finished them, they were. I mean, they're way too long. They're easily 7 or 8 inches too long. So, I rolled them up into this really cute cuff, and I said, gosh, I like that. So I just sewed them down in that position. So I've got these permanently cuffed sleeves. I just love this. I wore it to class the other night, and the person next to me, we were talking over the break, and she said, something about, well, what do you do for fun? And I said, oh, I knit. And she said, yeah, I've done some of that, but, it's not like I'm making anything. And I said, oh, really? I make a lot of stuff. She looked straight at me and said, like what? And I said, the vest I'm wearing is knitted. The socks I'm wearing is knitted. The scarf around my neck, that's knitted too. But this cardigan I'm wearing is crocheted. And literally her mouth dropped open and her eyes bugged. And she said, wait a minute, all that stuff you're wearing, you made yourself? And I said, yeah. And I thought, wow, I've reached that moment where I look like I'm wearing fast fashion or something. Except I'm not. If you know how to look, you would know right away this is classic fashion, number one. And number two, it's handmade. But the great thing about this cardigan is I just keep it all over the house. And when I get a chill, I put the cardigan on. It is really fantastic. And yeah, it's made in a mostly acrylic yarn, but I just found the right blend, and the little chain stitch works really well to puff it out and make it thick and warm and cuddly. But it's interesting to look at. I can't say enough good things about this pattern. And here's the last good thing. It's just rectangles. This is that beginner sweater that you saw in every beginner pattern book that you said, wow, that's really cheap looking. This one isn't. It works. And that means you can take these rectangle measurements and you can use them as your own template. And you can make anything you want. You can make it in crochet to the same size rectangles using any stitch you want. Or you could knit it using any stitch you want. Just knit it to these rectangle sizes and seam it together, and you're going to get one heck of a nice looking cardigan. And so, it's a moment where you think about if you find a really interesting acrylic blend and you want a cardigan that you can just leave around the house and not worry about moths or anything, this is really it. Whether you knit it, whether you crochet it, and no matter what pattern stitch you're using inside these rectangles, I always sort of scoffed at these rectangle type of patterns. Well, I'm over it. This was fantastic. It was a great experience all the way around. Really, really easy, and it looks terrific. But the pockets, I could not get happy about. I just did not like any place I put the pockets on the cardigan. Why? Because it's very long. And that's another one. You could certainly shorten the rectangle that is the back and the sides. But I sort of love that this is knee length. I just like everything about it. So again, this is the Wrapped in Tiny Chains cardigan, but I would recommend anything by this crocheter because you're going to get these rectangle measurements. And I think you can use these measurements endlessly in all sorts of variations. Meanwhile, I got a messenger message from the head of alumni relations from my all-girls Catholic high school, which still exists. And she said, hey, I follow your Facebook, and you're just always cranking out all these neat handmade, homemade things. Would you make something for our charity auction? And I said, sure, why not? When's the deadline? Thinking, April. She says, end of this month. So I thought, okay, what can I make that's fast, but that the kids at the school will recognize as kind of being fashionable and interesting. And it's supposed to be themed in our school colors. So if you go to the show notes, you will see me modeling the VJM Wednesday snood. Then I realized the Wednesday snood from the Netflix series Wednesday. Obviously, that was hand crocheted by somebody on Etsy, and I located her. And she only sells the made-up pattern for like $90, and I said no. But a lot of people have gone on to Etsy and on to Ravelry a lot of crocheters, and made up the snoods, because if you look at the show, the snood that Wednesday's roommate Enid is wearing, you can't miss that is simply a double crochet all the way around. It's a really long chain, and it's probably quadrupled around her neck. If she unwound that thing, I think it would be down to her knees or farther. But it's not even that thick in terms of how many rows. The Wednesday snood, to me, I keep freezing the frame and looking at it. To me, it looks much more dense. I think she might have done a half double or a single crochet there. And she also seems to do some stitches around the post to get texture, to get ridges. So the one that Wednesday is wearing looks to me to be heavier than the one Enid is wearing and more solid, close together stitching than what Enid is wearing. They're both terrific, and they both have tassels. And there's some discussion on all these patterns of how many tassels. I voted for 3 because every time I look at a picture, they say, oh, see, 6 tassels evenly spaced. But in every picture I've seen, no more than 3. And I think too many tassels would be really deeply annoying on this. Anyway, I made 3. And so you can see the picture of me wearing the VJM Wednesday snood, which isn't a snood, by the way. A snood looks like a hairnet. It's actually just a very long infinity scarf, reasonably wide or reasonably deep, as it were. And you wrap it around your head, and you should be able to pull it up to look like a hood over your ears. So you can see me wearing the VJM snood. I quite liked it. Now, how did I make it? This was hilarious. I walked into Joann Fabrics, and they had an acrylic, their house acrylic called Big Twist, on sale. 380 yards of size 4 worsted weight pure acrylic for $2 and I think 89 cents. So yes, I bought 760 yards of this stuff for $6. And I went home and I made this up in one night, added the tassels the next day. And here's the real kicker. It came out really nice. I mean, I held the yarns double and I used a P-hook, and it has really nice hand. It's a very soft acrylic. I really liked it. I had just enough left over to make another little cowl. So I used the Super Speedy Cowl pattern. You can see the links to all this in my show notes. And I just made a handy little cowl in the school colors, blue and gold. And I messed with it a little bit. I think the original Super Speedy Cowl is in all double crochet, and I didn't do that. I believe I did a row of singles followed by a row of doubles, and I repeated that all the way around. Each stripe is singles followed by doubles. Came out very, very nice. I do recommend that cowl pattern for the simple reason that it's free, and it gives you the stitch count to make a cowl for yourself in a worsted weight yarn. In other words, it'll tell you how many to chain. And honestly, I don't remember the number, but if you want a cowl, if you've got leftover yarn, let me tell you, this is the way to go. It takes nothing. I don't think it even takes 220 yards. It's really fast and effective. So then I walked away from the post office after I mailed off the VJM Wednesday snood, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I said, I want one of these of my own, but I don't want to buy more acrylic, for one thing. I don't like acrylic in the long run. And I thought, surely I have enough yarn in my stash. Now, if you had any brains, if you were me, you would go right back and pick up some skeins, because I have plenty left, of the same yarn that I used for my beautiful Wrapped in Tiny Chains cardie, but I didn't. The original pattern I used, which I think is by someone called Gabby Knits, but the link is in the show note, including the link to the Ravelry information. The original designer, she used just a bulky weight yarn. When I made the VJM Wednesday snood, I didn't. I used 2 strands of worsted weight held together, which really makes a super bulky, to be completely honest. So I thought, well, let's try this snood in just a plain bulky weight. And I went into my stash, and Gabby recommends 300 yards of bulky to make 10 rows. Well, she also makes 150 stitches. I cut it back. In the VJM snood, I used 105 stitches, and I wanted a little more room, so on my own Wednesday snood, I made it 120 stitches, and that worked out really well. And I got about 9 1/4 rows. She recommends 10 rows. Tried it on, said this looks excellent, and left it that way. Will I put tassels on it? I don't know. Because I used the 2 skeins of Malabrigo Mecha in the colorway Hojas, which is H-O-J-A-S-A, or for you English speakers, the spelling is H-O-J-A-S. But in Spanish, it's Hojas. Anyway, so I made it. It came out really cute. There's a picture of me wearing it. I'm really, really happy with it. Again, you can do this in a night. This is nothing. All I did, I chained 120, joined with a slip stitch in the round, and then I chained 2, and from there I went on doing double crochet in every chain. It worked out so great. I did not join in rows. What I did was I just went around and around and around in a spiral. Worked out great. I got about 9 1/4 rows, and it's plenty wide enough, and I just knotted it and called it a day. But I found a skein of Malabrigo Rios, which is a very close colorway. It's the same colorway but no blue. And it is in the colorway Ivy. And I'm looking at that and going, I could make tassels for the Wednesday Snood in the Hojas with the Ivy. We will see. I'm thinking about making that skein into a hat and then using the leftover to make tassels for my Wednesday Snood. Who knows? I may also just knit fingerless mitts to match it. Who knows? But anyway, it's really adorable. So you can see a picture of me wearing the finished Wednesday Snood, except it doesn't have tassels, and right now I don't know if it ever will. I'm so happy with it. It looks terrific. So as you can see, a lot of FOs this week, and that leads me to talk about Stash Toss 2023, in which I am counting how many skeins I put in my stash versus how many I take out of my stash, that is, use up. So, when I bought the acrylic for the VJM Snood and cowl, I added 2 more skeins in, but also 2 more skeins out because they're completely gone. And the Wednesday Snood took out 2 more skeins that were just sitting in my stash. Fairly recent acquisitions, I should say. I probably got them late last year. I know I got them from L'Atelier on Ventura Boulevard in LA when the husband's eyeballs were blowing up as a means of cheering myself up. And also because I liked L'Atelier and I wanted to honor the place, so I bought yarn from him. Anyway, so when I'm doing the rules here, I'm counting every skein that I added to my stash since January 1st, 2023, and every skein that I have knitted up out of my stash since January 1st, 2023, which means when I was doing projects that I began last year, I did not count those skeins. So I'm really just counting skeins that I started to use in 2023. What does that mean? Well, some of my older projects, like the Knit and Tiny Chains cardigan, that took 13, I think, skeins of its yarn. But I only used about 6 skeins. I only started about the last 6 skeins as I was crocheting it after January 1st of 2023. So I did not count all the skeins in this cardi. I counted the ones that I started to use after January 1st. Okay, the other rule is I don't put any skeins into the outbox until I've completely finished the project. So, for example, I have 4 skeins of the Cascade Quadra that are going into my vestuary vest. I have not included them yet. They all were started after January 1st, but they are not in the count yet until I finish that vest. Then I will add 4 skeins on the outside of the balance. So I'm just sort of controlling my use of yarn. I'm trying to make sure that more is leaving my stash than is going into my stash. It's been a very interesting thing. It blows my mind that since January 21st, I've already bought 4 skeins, but I've already completely, from beginning to end, used 15 skeins. That makes me sound way productive. Thank God for crochet is all I can say. As I switch more into knitting, that count's going to slow down a bit. Vestuary 2023, I really took the week off to finish the Chains cardigan. So I haven't added to that. I am just at the end of the second skein of 4, and I have the third skein wound and in a little yarn sweater. So, hopefully I will wind that fourth skein and add it to the bag as well. The lane splitter, I haven't touched it. I really need to get back to it because that will be a quick project to finish. Ooh, the Don't Know Yet blanket had a great week. A great, great week. Because I had clipped together row 7, and then I had sewn together all of row 7. So all the short seams on row 7 were done. So row 7 is now clipped on to rows 1 to 6 that are completely sewn together into the bottom of the blanket. And row 7 is now clipped onto it, but wait, I'm almost finished sewing row 7 on, which blows my mind. I have the edges of 3 of the little blocks to finish seaming onto the long edge. So all row 7 is joined in one big long strip, and I'm almost finished sewing that whole strip on, and I have most of the ends woven in. So I'm really, really close to getting row 7 completely finished on the major block, which will now be 7 blocks long out of 19. And that's, by the way, 114 blocks. No, that's row 6 would be 114 blocks. I think row 7, takes it up, 133, something like that? Blocks out of 361 blocks are now joined together completely with ends woven in to be the blanket. So meanwhile, I clipped row 8 together, and then I managed to sew all its short edges. So row 8 is now completely assembled and just waiting to be clipped onto the main block. But I have to finish with row 7 first. And row 9, I did identify it. It's sitting in a little project bag all in pieces, and I found which project bag it was. And I assembled row 9 and clipped it together. So row 9 is waiting for its short seams. Row 8 is waiting to be clipped onto the body of the blanket and have its long seam and ends done. And row 7 is almost completely sewn onto the body of the blanket. So it's booking right along, and it's looking very interesting. You can see rows 1 through 7 clipped together. Well, actually 1 through 6 are sewn together and 7 is clipped on. You can see that picture in the show notes. The Pennsylvania Dutch embroidery, not yet, but I do have hope for it by the end of my spring semester at College of the Canyons as part of one of my projects for my Deaf Studies class. True, weird but true. In the meantime, the Reach for the Stars hat. This is using a skein from Dizzy Blonde Studios of DK weight, dyed in a colorway Laura named Reach for the Stars in honor of the association of the late Nichelle Nichols, Lieutenant Uhura of Star Trek, the original Star Trek, her association with NASA. And that is sitting in my car right now. I'm still working on the brim of it because I keep getting distracted by everything else. Again, this is a skein I took in at Stitches, California, Stitches, Southern California, in November. And I bought it simply because of the association with Nichelle Nichols, who I admired, and knew it was going to be a DK weight hat, and so it will be. It's coming out very attractive. It's a beautiful colorway. So I'm really enjoying that, but that is just sort of sitting in my car waiting to be done because I am making all the watch caps that I can. I want a big collection of watch caps. The Lady Eleanor shawl is stalled, but I plan to go back to that as soon as I finish the vestuary vest. That is one of my big knitting projects. I like to have one sweater going at a time. The Lady Eleanor is actually a very big shawl, but I'm counting it as kind of a sweater. And the only reason I stopped it, it was going quite well. I'm in the middle of skein 7 out of 11, and it's just fantastic. It's 32 inches long and beautiful right now. But I paused on it because it is important to me in February to do vestuary and do one vest. It is a really cool thing to be able to count on having a new vest in the early spring every year. Lots of stuff on the hooks and needles, huh? So I'm going to go quickly through. You can see my favorite resources, some of which I have mentioned today, including Dizzy Blonde and L'Atelier, and Birch and Cider as well. We'll come back to them. Dizzy Blonde's no real spinning, but I am still spinning on my drop spindle a fuzzball of Minerva daily. So every day she jumps in my lap 5 or 6 times now. She asks to be brushed now. She loves it. So I let her jump in my lap, and she talks to the brush, and she purrs and coos at the brush. And I just have this little tiny brush. I mean, seriously, the bristles on it are, I'd say about 1.5 inches by 1 inch. And I just brush until they're full of Minerva hair. and then I sweep it off with one finger. And it's very much like I'm combing it on official wool combs. I sweep it off with my thumb, and then I just spin it. It's amazing how much of this stuff I have, really. I have the Nano to unbox, but that hasn't happened yet. So let's get on to the strategy. So I was talking last week about interpersonal skills, and I was talking about apologies, and you all seem to be happy with that. The subject of apologies leads to another acronym. In the interpersonal skills, we use the acronym GIVE. Give is how you should approach another person. And I realized when I was talking about the apologies, it would be good to know GIVE. GIVE is just what you think it is, G-I-V-E. And it stands for gentle, interested, validating, and easy. This is how you talk to other people. You want to be gentle. First of all, whatever you're doing, when you're talking to somebody and you expect it to be difficult, you don't want to sound aggressive or too over-the-top enthused. You want to sound just gentle, calm, non-threatening, pleasant. Okay, so when you speak, you want to be gentle. This involves modulating your voice, not talking like wah, 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 into somebody's face, but just slowing your voice down and modulating it to a gentle, pleasant tone. Next, you want to be interested. That is, no matter what you're trying to address with another person, you always want to present as interested in their response and what they have to say. And oh boy, this goes wrong so often. You often see someone not being gentle in the face of their listener, and they're just talking at their listener, and you can see they're not focused on the listener. That their eyes look like they're internalized, like they're thinking only of what they're about to say next. They're not attending to the listener's response. They're not watching the listener's body language or facial expression, let alone they're not listening to what the listener says to them. No matter what you think you're doing in a two-way conversation, you need to be interested in the other person. That also includes, unexpected but true, if you are a manager and you are correcting a subordinate, you don't just hammer them. Unless you're a lousy manager, of course. But even if a subordinate has really screwed up, you keep your focus on them. You're watching their response to being corrected. Even in that situation, you are always interested in the body language, the facial expression, and the verbal feedback from that person. You're always paying attention to them. The V is for validating. So part of what you're doing here, you're nodding, you're maintaining eye contact, you're acting genuinely, again, interested. But when you're validating, you're more than just interested, you're responding. So often you just nod. The interesting thing about validation is when you're talking to someone and they begin to rant at you, one of the reasons people rant in your face is that you are not validating them. So they are trying to get a point across and you're just staring at them. So they're going to keep repeating that point until they get gestures or words or sounds that indicate that you're hearing them. That's what validating is. It's nodding. Sometimes you're going, uh-huh. You keep eye contact. You stay visibly focused on them. Again, even if you think you're there to tell them something they need to hear, you are always validating. You are keeping eye contact, nodding your head, looking responsive. Your face should respond. You don't keep a rigid expression. If they're chewing you out, maybe you do. But if you're in a normal conversation, you're validating. Your face is responding as well. Other things that go wrong with validating, people cross their arms in front of their chest. Among most greater apes, that means resistance. If you're validating the other person, you use what's called an open posture. You don't cross your arms in front of yourself. You also don't cross your knees while you're listening. You may lean back in your chair and relax, but you don't look tense. You don't look edgy. You control your body language to show interest, but you don't want to show threat or defensiveness. And finally, the E of give, easy in your manner. Look relaxed. Keep breathing. When you breathe normally, the other person, even if they're upset, will begin to imitate your breathing. We call that mirroring, that when you're talking to someone else and you're using the give skills, you will see them begin to mirror you. They will start to imitate you. So you'll scratch your chin, and if you count to about 15, they'll suddenly scratch their jaw or something like the movement you just made. So when you see mirroring, that is a sign that you are being sufficiently easy in your manner. But overall, you want to present as relaxed and calm and pleasant. So the strategies for how to present yourself give. You want to be gentle in your tone of voice, in the way you're talking, in your presentation, in your eye contact, not looking hostile. You blink, in other words. You want to look interested. So you're paying attention to what they say. You're watching their body language. You're noting how they're responding to what you're saying. You want to be validating. You nod. You show approval. You agree. You say, uh-huh. And you want to be easy in your manner. If you don't agree with what they're saying to you, you don't get aggressive or hostile. You stay relaxed and calm. And you regulate your breathing, because that will help them, whether they know it or not, to regulate their breathing. And that will help them not to escalate if they don't like what you're saying. So the interpersonal strategies of the week give: gentle, interested, validating, and easy in your manner. Okay, let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, we're on to the fluffy books. I'm not really reading anything new. I've had to circle back to Introduction to American Deaf Culture, because in my Deaf Studies course, which is about deaf culture, we're using that as a textbook. As you know, I've already read it. And I'm reading like wildfire through all the other articles that are being offered to us in this course. And I'm really enjoying them, I have to say. They're very brief. It is kind of hard to find articles on deaf culture, which should make one of the assignments this semester challenging. This is Introduction, though, to American Deaf Culture by Thomas Holcomb, and she's only making us read chapters 1 through 4, which, okay, but I'm glad I've read the whole book at this point. I'm not doing anything in the Beatrice Hyde Clare series. I need to circle back, because it's true, I've been listening to Jane Austen's Dragons at night to fall asleep. They're kind of fun because they are sort of episodic. So, you wake up at 3 a.m. and Lizzie Bennet is in a dragon's cave talking about why he shouldn't eat her. And you sort of hang around for about a page of that and you doze off again. In the meantime, I'm continuing to carry the link to the free textbook on cultural anthropology because I still mean to read it. Shoot. Been a good week. Been a really good week. I'm now routinely working on stretching every morning for at least 5 minutes, and I feel so much better. It's unreal. In the meantime, I'm back working on my Fit Desk. I'm biking on my Fit Desk every morning. I don't bike very long, just a few minutes. But again, I feel so much better. What I want you to get is that energy begets energy. So you say, I have no motivation to exercise. No, you don't. Because yet you're not using energy, so it doesn't give you any energy. And I'm kind of working off that TED Talk I told you about a while back, where she says, just run for 1 minute. And it sounds idiotic, but I started biking for 1 minute, and I'm slowly working my way up. And I'm just really enjoying it. And the great thing is, there's just not an excuse. I get up in the morning and I go, I don't have time for this. And I say, really? My whole regimen of stretching and biking right now is 10 minutes long at most. It's really, really nice. And I feel better than I have felt in a long time. Something I really like, well, there is a picture of my latest tags from Birch and Cider. And I really like these. I expanded a little bit. On the last ones, I just had a little alpaca and it said J.M. me facet. J.M. made me in medieval Latin. Well, this one, I realized for the same price, these bend in half and you screw them together at the ends. So you've just got like this U-shaped leather tag going around your project. There's one right here on the bottom of my cardigan as I speak. And I really like them, as I said. And they've got a lot of varieties of patterns. Well, on this one, I decided I wanted a pattern on both the inside and outside, or I should say the top side and underside. So on the front, I have a cat. in honor of Minerva, and it says J.M. May Fockett. And then on the side that will fold up on the inside of the scarf or the garment, it says handmade. It's a heart in a human hand. It says handmade. I really like it. I'm looking at one of them now on the Cardi. Just really, really cool. These are not expensive, but they're just that little piece of finishing that makes me feel great. And you screw them in. I buy them with the screws included, and I'm really enjoying them. Meanwhile, put a lid on it. The tea tastings continue. And this week I thought I should mention Plum Deluxe's very wonderful Magical Butterfly Herbal Tea. This is the weirdest looking tea I have ever seen, but I really like it. Why? Well, let me read the ingredients to you. It says Magical Butterfly Herbal Tea, a fun and tasty tea time treat. Indeed it is. Ingredients: apple pieces, rose hips, hibiscus, butterfly pea flowers, PEAP, blackberry leaves, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, orange peel, melissa leaves, lemongrass, lemon peel, blue cornflower, vanilla essence, no caffeine. Okay, I love this. You can taste the vanilla and you can taste the blueberries. It smells like a slightly citrus blueberry. The smell is great. It's blue. That alone would make it pretty wild. If I had a little girl, you know I'd be using this at tea parties. But you should see this stuff. It's the most interesting looking tea because it's got big clumps of flowers in it. This is beautiful stuff, and I really like it. So I am heartily recommending Plum Deluxe Magical Butterfly Herbal. I have to tell you, I didn't like it the first time. It was just very weird. It's kind of grown on me, but it's really, really become a favorite. I'm always on the lookout for an interesting herbal tea. This is the one. This is basically going to become a house blend. If you're tracking that, the Eggnog Oolong is a house blend. That's a black tea for the winter. And this, the Magical Butterfly Herbal, is a house tea. My other house teas, I'm still looking for the Ceylon Loose Leaf Tea of my dreams. I suspect it's going to be Dilma, which will appear as a link later on. I'm with Harney & Sons using theirs, but I'm not that impressed. It just doesn't have the right freshness or depth for me. I am, however, enjoying Harney & Sons chocolate mint tea as a house tea, but I am concerned about potential sugar in there, that they're steeping this tea leaves in sugar. We will see, but I've got a lot of it to drink my way through. But so far, I would say those are the established house teas that have emerged from all the tea tastings that went on at the end of 2022. In the meantime, I grew up in a house where we had Johnson Brothers stoneware. Johnson Brothers was a factory in England, but has since been moved to China, which is very sad. However, they preserve their traditional 19th century patterns. In our house, we had something called Friendly Village, which was really a New England type pattern of all these red painted barns with sugar maples around them in the snow. Very, very pretty. However, I'm in Southern California, and having that dishware here just looks weird. And so I was going to get some because I always loved it when I had it in my days living in Eastern Pennsylvania. Well, no. However, I went looking through Amazon for Johnson Brothers, because Amazon carries it now, and I found this beautiful blue pattern, and you can see a picture of the plates. They are really attractive. The salad plates, the matching plates, are not as handsome, but the dinner plate is just beautiful. So we were running low. We have Pfaltzgraff, this stoneware in plain blue, very primitive pattern, and I couldn't find the Pfaltzgraff, and I said, what the heck? We've had Pfaltzgraff for 30 years. This stuff matches the Pfaltzgraff. It's blue as well. So I got 4 of these dinner plates. I have to tell you, it's just one of those simple things that made me happy. And if you look on the dinner plate, you can see one of my favorite keto noshes. It's kind of a keto charcuterie. That is just plain salami, pre-sliced, bought in a package at Trader Joe's. And then a naturally brined dill pickle, as in no sugar, sliced up next to it. And some good old-fashioned baby Swiss. And if that's not the lunch of your dreams, I don't know what is. On to the blather. I went to my first deaf culture class Not particularly great. I was not that enthused. However, I am deeply enjoying the class assignments, the readings and such. She says, she being the teacher says, we don't need to speak ASL. Let me tell you, it sure helps if you do. And there's only 2 of us that are really low-level ASL. I'm there with my ASL 101 class, and I've got the lady sitting next to me, a young woman who has had no sign. I will be really impressed to know if she's going to show up again tomorrow night. But it was an okay class. People were relatively friendly. I'm much older than everybody else, so, people were a little isolating in that respect. But there was one lady who seemed to want to be friendly and was trying to get me to come to one of the deaf events that week. I couldn't go last week. But hopefully on Saturday night, I will go to the deaf event at Starbucks. It's a bit of a haul for me, but it is worth my while, let me tell you. We have to go to 2 of these and write papers. No problem there. I will really enjoy it. However, you can't go and knit. They take it as kind of offensive that your hands are busy and your eyes aren't looking at the speaker. So we will see. But I have to go to 2 of these and write 1-page papers. No effort there. The pup date. Well, it's kind of eventful. First of all, I should say Minerva needs to go and get her shots. She was supposed to go and get them yesterday, but we got side railed because my husband's car failed. So $4,000 later, we have his car back, but we had to pick it up yesterday. So Minerva's shots got put back. Since she's a house cat, it's not a big issue. But I do want to get her, especially rabies and distemper, since she lives with dogs who go outdoors. In the meantime, Blankets is doing great. 15 years old and just living her best life. Sleeping under the bed all day, going outside with her puppy daughters, and hanging out. And she loves her puppies, and she frequently comes in and reports about them to me as I'm seeing patients. Captain is doing very well. On the 20th, she's got another check on her nose. They're going to inspect to see how the discoid lupus on her nose looks, and we have to renew her meds. But she's been doing just great. Queenie is getting spayed in 2 days. She doesn't know it. We're not telling her. But she definitely needs the spay. And she is now, I think she's born May 10th, and today is February 14th, so that makes her 9 months, I believe. So, yeah, she is more than due for a spay. What I do not want is our boisterous baby collie girl in heat. That would be a little slice of hell. As I've mentioned, the hub state, he's doing fine, but the car has now recovered from some leakage in the coolant. They had to tear it all apart. That's where the big cost came from. But it's back together, and, we're working on paying another bill. On the calendar, I had Grand Canyon and Sunnybank. I think they're both in to be canceled at this point because we've just been hit with so much financial stuff, in the thousands, every single thing. And so I'm at the point of I don't think we can rack up any more bills. However, we're in Southern California. There's so much to see here that instead of the Grand Canyon, we will probably go up to Mammoth Lakes, which is much more local and a lot less expensive, and poke around there for a few days in June. And will I go to Sunnybank? I don't know. I'd like to go to Sunnybank. I'd really hope to, but with all the financial crises this year, it doesn't feel that likely. All right, but it's not blue. I'm not particularly minding. I really am enjoying kind of staying local, to be honest. Meanwhile, Minerva gets the last word. And it's very funny because I have started brushing Minerva every day, as you know. And now we've got a whole language around it. She comes into the room and she yells at me and she looks at me. And if I hold up the brush, she jumps in my lap. Or she will go over to the brush on my table and knock it off to indicate that I should pick up the brush and brush her. So this has become a big thing. And so Minerva has suddenly found that being a lap cat many times a day is to her preferences. So now she's expanding to the boys. So you can see a picture of my beloved with Minerva enjoying his lap. And if you're paying attention, you will see her paw. You can see her 2 forepaws hung over his right thigh. And you will see that her right forepaw, it's a little blocked by the chair arm, is extended. This indicates ownership. When Minerva wants to claim territory, she usually takes her right foreleg and stretches it out really far over the edge of whatever she's claiming. In that picture, she is indeed doing it to my beloved. So there he is in my study being owned by Minerva. And Minerva recommends that since it's Valentine's Day, you should consider the idea of being an equal opportunity lover. You should love everybody around you as much as you can. I have beautiful roses in the kitchen and a bunch of keto chocolate bars and a lovely, lovely card with a wonderful sentiment on it. And so we are just churning right along here happily on Valentine's Day. Please, everybody, remember the usual precautions. If you're in a close situation, wear your mask, always wash your hands, try to socially distance where you can, get all your shots. Most of all, remember we're a community. When we take care of each other, we are doing the best thing we can to take care of ourselves. So everybody, on that note, stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.